they're killing everyone.
In the plots of most books and movies, there's typically a clear good guy and bad guy. In cases of human rights abuses, it would seem the same standards would apply. Increasingly, however, this simple picture of a situation falls apart before a more complex reality. In March, the nonprofit advocacy group Invisible Children released a viral documentary on YouTube that garnered over 87 million views. Entitled KONY 2012, it seemed to present a perfectly clear-cut scenario. The video called for the arrest of Joseph KONY, the leader of the violent rebel group the Lord's Resistance Army, that has been accused of human rights abuses in Central Africa for over 20 years, and it gave step-by-step instructions on how to do so. However, soon after release, the video drew criticism for oversimplifying the facts. Danny Herschel Burns, a member of the Global Student Anti-Genocide Coalition, also known as STAND, agrees.
It's this idea that if you give enough money to an army, they can go out and kill the bad guys, and the situation will resolve itself, and there will be peace. And this is not how it works in the real world.
The situation becomes more complicated by the fact that the LRA is not the only group in the conflict believed to be violating human rights. The BBC reported that the Ugandan Army, the group that Invisible Children advocates for supporting, are also accused of human rights abuses. The crimes, which include rape and child recruitment, are similar to those the LRA is accused of. Such ambiguous situations aren't only limited to Africa. In Syria, much public attention and support has been garnered in many Western and Arab nations for the plight of the Syrian opposition forces, who have been fighting to overthrow the authoritarian regime of the Syrian president Bashar al-Assad. Numerous sources have indicted the Assad regime for human rights abuses in a conflict that the UN reports has claimed over 9,000 lives. However, although the majority of the crimes reported have been committed by the regime, in late March, Human Rights Watch released a report accusing factions of the opposition forces of committing human rights abuses as well, including torture. This clip, included in the report, shows a Syrian government soldier captured by the opposition forces. According to Human Rights Watch, the wounds on his face indicate that he was forced to speak under duress. But if situations concerning human rights abuses are so rarely clear-cut, why do organizations so often pick a side to support? Luke Lanciano, a previous STAND member who graduated from Syracuse this year, has an idea.
So many advocates sort of place their center of gravity around the Holocaust. That was sort of, in many ways, the start, I guess you would say, of real international human rights norms.
The Holocaust is a clear example of a situation where there is a distinct villain and victim. However, such a black and white view can often belie the complexities inherent in issues involving war crimes and human rights abuses.
Because it's always trying to apply something to an ideal, the ideal world, for example, which obviously isn't going to come around anytime soon.
At a time when issues like Syria and campaigns like KONY 2012 are drawing greater attention towards issues of human rights abuses and how best to prevent them, it's important to understand how such situations are perceived by human rights groups and the general public alike. Central to this question is how the good guy, bad guy narrative can hinder effective action, and how such a hindrance can be avoided. Oftentimes, it seems that taking a side in an issue can't be helped. The difficulty comes in understanding who in a conflict is really the victim.
I feel like human rights organizations always have to take the side of the victim, but the problem is everybody has a different definition of the victim.
But human rights organizations are beginning to offer clearer definitions, focusing their efforts not on supporting a side, but on protecting the civilians affected by the conflict. An example of this approach comes from the Nonviolent Peace Force, an international, unarmed group of paid peacekeepers based in Belgium and active in many areas around the globe. The Nonviolent Peace Force's primary goals are to offer protection to civilians and to open dialogue between opposing groups, and it's careful not to pick sides. Mel Duncan is the co-founder and director of advocacy and outreach for Nonviolent Peace Force.
In most conflicts that we've been in, the various parties have all been involved in a variety of rights abuse situations. It really doesn't serve us to say, well, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys.
Instead, the Nonviolent Peace Force focuses on protecting citizens in the area, working with local civil societies to do so. Central to the strategy of engagement is the subject of permission. Nonviolent Peace Force only works with civil societies that have invited it to assist them.
Our work depends vitally on strong civil society participation, those groups inviting us, and then us partnering on the ground with local organizations.
It's a very cautious procedure, but it's necessary to make sure the intervention is proper and effective. By working with peaceful civil societies within the affected region, the Nonviolent Peace Force is also able to make sure its assistance is driven by the local communities, a strategy that is gaining traction within humanitarian organizations.
Political solutions negotiation, working with the community is necessary. And it's also, solutions are simply more effective when it's coming from the community is rebuilding from within versus an outside force saying, like, this is how you're going to rebuild.
So intervention, or at least direct intervention, seems to work on a paradigm of less is more. The Nonviolent Peace Force is taking this approach seriously, and in the process is making sure that it approaches complex situations cautiously and with the appropriately nuanced view. So what causes advocacy campaigns like KONY 2012 to gain such a significant portion of the public's attention? The fact is that the good guy, bad guy narrative creates a much more compelling story, one that allows such campaigns to attract a larger audience.
It's very difficult to, turn to the average person and explain all the overlapping nuances of a conflict. Quite frankly, it's easier to simplify, and it's more effective.
Even so, it's important that actors and advocates keep in mind that real-world situations don't play out like storybook plots. Things are rarely black and white, and remembering this is necessary for campaigns to protect human rights to ultimately succeed. For WNR, I'm Collin Smith.